If your cold outreach isn't working, it's not your fault. The entire outreach landscape changed in 2025, but most people are still stuck with 2023 tactics. And I'm not gonna lie, I was in the same boat 2 years ago, sending thousands of emails and simply getting terrible results. Then I made one change, literally just one, and everything flipped. I went from a couple sales calls a month to landing my first couple clients and now booking over 150 sales calls every single month for my company. Same offer, same message, and pretty much the same targeting. So let me show you what changed and why I think it'll work for you too. And before I show you what fixed everything, let me show you why your outreach might be failing right now. It typically comes down to one of these 3 reasons or a combination of all 3. Once you see this, the solution really becomes obvious. Reason number 1, deliverability collapse in 2025. And I'm not exaggerating here, just take a look at these numbers from actual industry studies. Inbox placement dropped from 50% to under 28% in just 1 year, meaning if you send 100 emails, only 28 of them will actually reach the inbox. The other 72 will go straight into spam or promotions. And it gets worse. 17% of the emails that do hit the inbox don't even reach the recipient at all. They either bounce, they're blocked, or they get filtered out by spam filters. So you're spending endless hours crafting the perfect sequence, offer, and building highly targeted lists, and 7 out of 10 emails never even get seen. Email as a channel used to work really well, but it's simply not what it used to be a couple years ago. Reason number 2 is saturation. Just think about it. Your prospects are drowning in cold emails. The average B2B decision maker gets over 100 emails every single day. So just think about that. Even if your emails do land in the inbox, they're going to be competing against another 99 emails that specific person is getting. And it's not just email. LinkedIn is pretty much the same story now. Everyone watched the same YouTube videos, read the same playbooks, and so now everyone's doing the exact same thing. Your messages might be great, your offer might be perfect, but it's just getting lost in the noise. And when everyone's using the same channel, same tactics, same type of scripts and offers, nothing really works and nobody really wins. The channel gets saturated, reply rates drop, and everyone is just essentially racing to the bottom. That's sadly where we're at with cold email and LinkedIn in 2025 going into 2026. And reason number 3, which is the one that most people miss out on, is that buyer behavior changed. In 2023, decision makers checked their emails religiously, they reply to LinkedIn DMs themselves. Heck, they even took cold calls. But in 2025, they've become numb to all that, and they've learned to ignore all of it. Email fatigue is now real. LinkedIn fatigue is real. Your prospects have been hit with so many messages that they've developed what I call outreach blindness. They see a cold email and they delete it without even opening it. They see a LinkedIn message, they just ignore it. They see a call from someone they don't know, it just goes straight to voicemail. And that's in the best case scenario if they don't have their assistant going through their email, their LinkedIn, and taking phone calls for them. And it's really not that they don't need what you're selling, it's that they've been conditioned to tune out traditional outreach because they've probably been burned in the past. So here's where we are. Number 1, deliverability is broken in 2025. Number 2, saturation is killing reply rates. And number 3, buyers are now ignoring traditional outreach channels. And so if your cold outreach isn't working, it's because you're fighting 3 massive headwinds. But here's the good news. The one change that fixed everything for me wasn't my script, my offer, or my targeting. It was changing the channel. Let me explain. A couple years ago, I was exactly where you're at now. I had a great offer, I knew my target market, my messaging was solid, but I was getting maybe a handful of calls every single month from cold outreach. Not terrible, but definitely not ideal either. And this was because I was sending thousands of emails every single week. Open rates were terrible, reply rates were even worse, and I was spending countless hours every single week managing a system that kind of worked. Then I had this thought, what if the problem isn't my message? What if the problem is that I'm reaching out to people in a place where they've learned to simply ignore everyone? In my head, it was like trying to have a conversation with someone at a rock concert. It really doesn't matter how good your message is if no one can hear you. And so I asked myself, where can I reach these people without all the noise? And so instead of going to the rock concert to talk to people, it's more so, why don't we find a nice coffee shop where we can chat to our ideal audience? The answer was hiding in plain sight. At the time it was Twitter, and now it's X. Now before you click away thinking Twitter is only for memes and being up to date on the news, just hear me out. Your ideal clients, the CEOs, founders, and decision makers, they're on Twitter. Not only that, but they're active, they're posting, they're engaging with other people, and they're openly talking about the problems that they need solved. And here's the key, almost almost nobody is using Twitter DMs for B2B outreach. Your ideal prospects right now get around 100 cold emails every single day, maybe 20 to 30 LinkedIn DMs per week, and maybe just a handful of Twitter DMs a month. And so if that's the case, which one do you think they're more likely to read and reply to? And so that was the one change. I stopped trying to fight in crowded channels, and I moved to where my prospects actually had attention to give. There's literally not a single founder that I know that doesn't check their Twitter DMs on a pretty consistent basis. And here's why this one change fixed everything. Every single cold DM you send will land in someone's message requests. There's no spam filters that you have to fight. There's no deliverability issues. As long as you're paying $8 a month for the blue check verification, you will land in people's request inbox, which is where they check every single day to see if they've gotten any new messages. And so once again, there's no deliverability issues. It simply just works. While they're getting 100 emails a day and maybe 20 to 30 LinkedIn DMs a week, on Twitter, your messages actually get read instead of just getting lost. And number 3, you can personalize in ways that are literally impossible if we're talking cold email or cold LinkedIn. Why? Because you have their entire Twitter profile and it's a personalization goldmine. You have their recent tweets, their interests, who they follow, who they've interacted with. It's all right there, and this is data that no data provider will ever be able to find. And so it just saves you a bunch of time because you don't have to research them on a bunch of different platforms. And so it's the same outreach principles, very similar messaging, same targeting, it's just a different channel. And that's the one change that took me from booking a handful of calls every single month to over 150 sales calls per month for the last year and a half. Let me show you the exact before and after so you know what I mean. And before I break this down, if you want to try this channel out for yourself, I put a 7-day free trial for the tool I use down below in the description. It's called Drippy and it automates the entire process, and I'll show you how it works later on in this video. But first, let me show you the comparison. So first, I'd use something like Apollo or ListKit to find a list of highly qualified leads. So back in the day, there was a bunch of Apollo scrapers that you could use where essentially you took a link from Apollo, chucked it into one of these Apollo scrapers, paid them, then you took that list, you sent it to an email verifying tool, then you took those leads and you uploaded them to some sort of email sending tool. But before you even could send emails, you had to, number one, buy domains, then you had to set up inboxes, then you have to warm up those domains on the email sending tool for about 2 weeks, and then you could actually start sending emails. Then I'd send 1,000 emails and I'd get 27% open rate, anywhere between a 1 and a 5% reply rate. 5% comes from the study that's linked down below the description, so maybe 10 actual conversations. And from there, if you were lucky, you booked 1 or 2 sales calls max. And so all in all, you're spending a ton of hours getting this set up initially. You're spending a ton of resources as well because emails aren't cheap, email sending tools aren't cheap, data isn't cheap, and verifying emails is definitely not cheap at all. Plus, you have the 2 weeks that you have to wait for domains to warm up, then you have ongoing maintenance, then you have to do everything all over again. You have to test out different pieces of copy to see which ones work best, or just a handful of calls every single month. And so it's terrible ROI on time and effort unless you are literally the top 1% of cold emailers out there. Now, here's what my Twitter DMs look like nowadays. You can very quickly find who your target audience follows on Twitter by just asking ChatGPT if you're not super into the platform. And that should just take 5 minutes at max. And then once you have a list of people that your ICP follows, then you just want to look at who they follow, and those will probably be some very high quality leads as well. And you can look at their recent tweets, you can look at who they follow, and then personalize your DMs based off of that. And if you know what you're doing, maybe it'll take 1 to 3 minutes per prospect. And then just copy and pasting DMs into Twitter and sending them will take another couple minutes. And from 1,000 DMs, I typically get around a 7.5% reply rate. So that's going to give you 75 conversations to then be able to book meetings. And if you can't book meetings and close clients from 75 conversations, then maybe you have some other issues. And what's great about Twitter DMs is that you can send 1,000 DMs in literally just 2 days with 1 account, or in 1 day if you have 2 accounts. Why? Because Twitter allows you to send up to 500 messages per day per account. And all you really need is just the $8 a month verification. And so here, for example, you can see I've sent 1.3 thousand messages. I've gotten a total of 107 total replies, meaning an 8.5% reply rate. Now, this isn't common. I'm not saying that you're going to get these results. Our average reply rate is anywhere between 1 and 3%. This is obviously a campaign that's doing significantly better than the average campaign, but this is what you can do if everything is pointing in the right direction. You have a good message, you're targeting the right people, and your profile looks good on Twitter. And with results like these, if you are sending 1,000 messages and you're getting around 100 replies, you should very realistically be able to book at least a couple calls every single day. Now, if you're doing this manually, you can send maybe a couple dozen DMs every single single day. Maybe you're sending about 100, 150 a week, which really isn't bad. But if you want to scale beyond that and actually start booking big boy sales calls, that's where the automations come in. And so as I showed you here, obviously this isn't the Twitter interface. This is Drippy.ai, and this is a tool I use to actually send out all my Twitter DMs. I personally use Drippy to automatically find leads at scale. I also really like using it to personalize my messages, whether I'm just sending a hey first name, or if I am actually going in depth in personalization based off of their profile, or maybe a link that they have in their profile, meaning their website. And then once it puts all those together, then it also sends messages on complete autopilot. And as you saw, it also tracks everything that you're doing as well. And with automations, you're very easily able to send upwards of 100 DMs every single day, but the limit is really 500 a day, so you can go up to that. And so that's how I went from booking just a couple sales calls a month to now booking over 150 sales calls every single month. Obviously not just with one account, but we have a bunch of different accounts sending out different messages with different offers to different audiences. So let me just show you how easy it is to start a campaign on Drippy. So after you connect your Twitter account via the Chrome extension, what you're going to want to do is you want to go to leads on the left hand side of your screen. You hit new lead source, you do lead scraper. And now what this will allow us to do is it'll allow us to add an account source or a tweet source. Now to add leads, what you need to do is you just need to figure out who your target audience follows on Twitter. So let's just say that we are reaching out to e-com founders. So I would go to someone like Sean Ecom. I would take his link, I would copy it, then I would paste it into Drippy. It's going to start loading. And then if I want to reach out to other big e-com founders, I would just go after who Sean Frank follows. I would do add source, I would hit next, and you can obviously add as many account sources in here as you'd like. And now we have a total of, 1.6 thousand people that he follows. This is going to start importing in the background. Now what you can do is you can start adding bio contents or just different filters as you see fit. And so for example, we can just reach out to everyone that has the word founder in their bio or the word CEO. We're going to hit apply. And now our list of 1.6 thousand people is going to go down to maybe like under 1,000, maybe 500. Okay, there we go. So we have 483 people now. We're going to hit next. Now we're just going to give our lead source a name. And then once you save, you just have to hit new cold DM automation or automations on the left. You're going to select add new cold DM 2.0. We're going to hit next. Now for lead source, we're just going to look up the one that we just created, YouTube demo November, script personalizer. We're going to hit next. This is where you would add a little bit of context about what it is that you do. So in this case, since we're reaching out to e-com founders, then let's just say we help e-com brands with marketing or whatever it is that you do. That would go in here. And then for script, this is where you can get creative. There's tons of videos on this channel going over how to write scripts, but for this one, we'll keep it super short and brief. We're just gonna say, yo, what's up? And then we're gonna use AI personalization to come up with their first name. And then we're just gonna do an exclamation point. For settings, we are going to have it include website context in case you can't figure out their name just based on their profile. And then tweet context is also going to be turned on. We're gonna hit next. Now you can add as many variants as you'd like, but we're gonna hit next for follow-ups. You can do whatever follow-ups you'd like with whatever delay you want as well. We're just gonna delete it for now. We're gonna hit next. Now, like I said earlier, you can schedule up to 500 messages per day. So we're just gonna go ahead and do that. And you can add filters like these. So for example, if you wanted to only reach out to people that have their profiles in English, you can do that. If you wanna only reach out to people in the United States, you can do that as well. And if you only wanna reach out to people that have been active within the last certain amount of days, you can do that by toggling this on and then just selecting how many days that is. Then we hit next. Then you just give your automation name. We're gonna do YouTube demo. Then you're gonna select the account from which you're gonna send. You hit create, and now you are sending highly personalized messages to super qualified leads on complete autopilot. Now, obviously you don't need automations to start. The manual method works really well, but if you wanna scale faster, then that's when the automations will come in. And what's really nice about Drippy is that there's a 7-day free trial, so you can get this all set up for completely free by hitting the first link down below the description. And so here's the bottom line. If your cold outreach isn't working, it's probably not your fault. The channels you're using, cold email and LinkedIn, are fundamentally broken in 2025 going into 2026. One change that fixed everything for me was switching over to a channel where my messages, number one, actually got delivered, not competing with another 100 messages every single day, and prospects still have attention to give and don't just have their guard up. And that channel is Twitter. It's pretty much the same messaging, same targeting, same offer, it's just a different channel. And once again, that's the change that took me from just a couple of sales calls every single month to over 150 sales calls pretty consistently. And once again, if you want to make make this switch for yourself, the easiest way to do it is going to be Drippy.ai. There's a link to a 7-day free trial down below the description, so you can get everything going for completely free, and the first 250 messages are on the house. And if you're coming from this video, you'll also get a one-on-one onboarding call with our team, so make sure you take advantage of that. And obviously there's no commitment, so I highly recommend that you just check it out and see if it works for you. Now, if you want a complete course that comes with what offers work best, what scripts work best, and how to find leads that perfectly fit your ICP for Twitter, click this video on screen. I think you'll find it valuable. I appreciate you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.